Alright, let's get started on this coleslaw. Since we've left a few ingredients for you to prep for yourself, since there's a good learning experience here for you. We've got apples and carrots and cabbage. I'm going to be using a little bit of mint, and we've got a dressing that we're going to put it all together. It's really simple, super flavorful, and it goes really well with the salmon. So the dressing is really easy to pull together. I'm just going to grab this bowl, and we're going to put in our yogurt. We have a half a cup of yogurt. We're using coconut yogurt. It doesn't really taste like coconut. Doesn't have any extra added sugar in it, and it's a nice alternative for a non-dairy yogurt. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of honey. Gong. And this is a local honey from Terra Verde Farms, which is where we get a lot of our meat from. They're all grass-fed, grass-finished. So not a lot of sweetener, just a little bit. And then we're going to incorporate all of that together with a little salt and pepper. Let me wash my hands. So we're going to whisk this together. Put a little salt, a little pepper, super easy. All right, now we get busy with the cutting and the chopping, just a little bit. So we will start with the apples, since they're the most that we have to chop. And we're going to be using Granny Smith apples because they're not quite as sweet. They're a little bit tartar, so they're good for this type of a salad. And we don't need to peel them. They're organic. We're going to chop them in half, and then we're going to cut the cores out of the center of them. And I recommend, just for you cutting, if you set your apple down flat, it's much easier to cut. You can put your claw hand up against the apple and slice down at an angle. And then you can turn these wedges that we have over, and you can see that we still need to get the seeds out of this one, but you can still put it on a flat side and cut down and get the seeds out. So we'll do the same with the other side. Take the seeds out. And you're going to be doing what we call a julienne cut. And there's several different ways that you could put the apple into this salad. It just depends on the texture that you prefer. The smaller that it is and the thinner it is, then the more it's going to absorb the dressing, which is why we do it in a julienne. If you put it in a food processor and shred it, then it has a typical coleslaw texture to it. Julienning gives it a little bit more of a crunch, which is what I like. So I like to set the apple down flat and then just cut thin, maybe 8-inch slices. And when you start to get to a piece that gets a little unsteady, move on to the next piece. It's always handy to help. I'm sorry. It's always handy to have a very sharp knife. It makes cutting so much easier. For some of these pieces that are a little bit smaller and thinner, and it may be a little bit more difficult to cut them. Don't worry about it. I'll show you an easy trick. So we're going to take these half moons, and we're going to take a few of them, we're going to put them together, and then we're just going to cut little strips. So when they get done, they're just going to look like little matchsticks, I guess is what you would call them. And then we're going to put those aside, and we'll continue to cut our half moons into these little matchsticks. They don't have to be perfect. It's more about just creating a nice crunch, not a big bite in the salad. And once you get a good group of them together, I would just give them a good cut in half so that they're not too big. And some of these other sizes of wedges that are a little bit bigger, you can always chop them, cut them into smaller pieces. Get the same effect. Turn them, cut them. And it is really important when you're doing something like this to have a sharp knife. If you're cutting, say, the seeds out, it's good to point the knife away from you. Having a sharp knife helps you get through the skin so much easier. Because they're a little slippery, so you want to be careful. Now that I've got my apple all cut, I'm going to peel my carrot. And we're going to do the same thing with the carrot. I'm going to cut the ends off. This just happens to be a yellow carrot. We're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to slice really thin pieces down the side. And then we're going to take those pieces and cut them into halves or thirds, whatever you're comfortable with your knife. And again, you're creating these matchsticks. Which creates a really nice texture for the slaw. Do a lot of cutting, slicing, and chopping here at the carrot every day. Hundreds of vegetables. But it's nice when you can get them fresh and local and prep them that way instead of having them come in a bag already pre-chopped. So, as you can see, it's not difficult. It just takes a little bit of time. I'm going to cut these in half just to make them a little bit shorter. Some of these are a little chunky. And then we have our carrots and our apple. The easiest thing to cut is going to be the cabbage, and I have a quarter of a cabbage here. I'm just going to cut the end off of it. I would cut it in half so that we can take the core out, and I would just cut a triangle into the cabbage to get that core removed. And then put your cabbage down on a flat side and just cut nice thin strips strips through the cabbage. This is beautiful red cabbage. It's a little bit sweeter than green. The texture is about the same, but it's nice to have the variety of colors in the salad, the green, the red, the purple. You could add a red apple if you wanted to, if you wanted a little bit more sweetness. And then I'm going to just cut this into thirds just to make it a little bit smaller. And I've chosen, for the batch that I'm making, I'm going to mince up some mint to put in it. I find mint to be a really refreshing herb to add to salads. Parsley works well. You can put in cilantro. We have, you know, surprise for you in your box of one or the other, maybe all three, so that you can decide what you like. Sometimes, you know, putting a little bit of parsley and mint together, or some cilantro and mint, makes a really nice combination. Okay, so we have all our vegetables cut, our mince cut. We're going to get our dressing, and we're going to add our vegetables, and add our cabbage and our carrots and our apples. And our mint. So before you incorporate all of that dressing with your vegetables, I like to take a little bit of salt, put it on the top of the vegetables that you've just cut, and then what you're going to do is called a massaging technique. You're just going to take the vegetables and tightly massage them in your fingers. Oh yeah, you know you love it. Getting dirty with the veggies. So what this does is it breaks down the vegetables, helps them to absorb the dressing, and you'll find that when you start it out with, could be a full bowl of vegetables, you'll end up with about half the size. But it's a great technique. Kind of pulls the natural waters out of the vegetables, the natural sweetness, and incorporates it all together really nicely. Everybody should massage some veggies once in their lifetime. I can smell the mint and the honey. You might even want to add some hot pepper to it, give it a little zing. But you're going to want to try it and see if you want to add any more salt to it. I think that's good. All right, we're going with that. So you can see all those beautiful colors, textures, really comes together nicely. Now I would cover this and put it in the refrigerator and let all of these flavors come together, and you're going to find that the dressing is absorbed into the vegetables. So when you take it out, you're going to want to mix it together. You might even want to check it after 20 minutes and go back and give it a little bit of a toss. I might suggest that you put your slaw under your salmon when you serve it with your yogurt on the side.